So I wanted to kind of get or do a breakdown on Patsy. We've done one on John. And so I kind of wanted to do something real simple, not too much of a deep dive, but a kind of get to know you with Patsy Ramsey. And what I have here, and this might be a little bit clunky, but going to try to break down as the inspiration comes who Patsy was so we can kind of get a sense about her involvement in the crime, and from a personality and behavioral standpoint, what her capabilities were based on sort of the upbringing of Patsy. And so here we go. So this is a sort of pre-high school, I would call, thanks to all the sleuths and everybody online and websleuths.com, I believe it is. And then the Reddit forums, I think it's our JonBenet Reddit forum has like 106K members in it. And so looking in here, finding these pictures. And so here's Patsy. I would call it at a very pre-high school stage. And here's Patsy again at what I would call a pre-high school stage. And as you can see, she's donned in some sort of hat and looks like maybe some sort of drill team clothes, or I think in my high school we called them dancing dolls. This is possibly related to the drill team, or possibly related to some sort of theatrical performance. But what I did notice here was the hat. That's what I did notice. The hat and the upward tilt of the hat, and then the props. And obviously, if we look here, the length of the skirt. Why is that important? It's important because this would create, if Patsy's wearing this sort of in pre-high school, I would say, this creates or sets the stage for what you might see JonBenet in later on. If there are some things that the American public thought that JonBenet was wearing was a little bit risque, and Patsy and John maybe saw it differently, this would be why. Because this is something that Patsy's done before. And she's like, hey, it's not that really big of a deal. But I noticed, I noticed the hat is kind of similar to how JonBenet used to wear. So here we can kind of see that JonBenet, obviously in a pageant, she's donning the hat, very similar to Patsy, what Patsy would do. Probably, I'm speculating there. And then we kind of go to maybe a second look. But here we have that kind of upward tilt. When we look at JonBenet, the upward tilt of the hat. And then here we have another hat on JonBenet. So seems like a little bit of a staple to me, just from looking. And I'm not, I'm not tied to that idea, and it's not really a big deal, but something I was noticing. And I'll present this just to kind of give us a little bit of an overview moving forward so that you have this in your mind of who Patsy Ramsey was. Yahoo wrote this piece. Who was Patsy Ramsey? Who was JonBenet's mother, Patsy Ramsey? Just like our daughter, Patsy was also an American Beauty pageant contestant, graduated from Parkersburg High School, West Virginia in 1975. She went on to attend West Virginia U, BA in journalism, 1978. She won Miss West Virginia in 1977, married John in 1980. Welcomed Burke in 1987, continued to expand, had JonBenet in 1990, August of 1990, diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer in 93, completed treatment, I think until cancer came back, was in remission for 9 years. Cancer came back in 2002, died of ovarian cancer in age 49 in 2006, June of 2006, I think it was June 24. Of 2006. So that's just a little bit about Patsy and kind of where we're going. And I'm going to endeavor to sort of do this chronologically, but if I don't, forgive me. So let's continue. And so as we look at these two pictures here, we're probably, if we want to stretch the timeline from 5th to 8th grade, I think that these would be pre-high school. If we want to stretch that timeline, I would say this would probably be 5th through 8th grade. So we're probably looking at somewhere between 1966 I'd like to say 1967, but to be safe, I'd say somewhere between 1966 and 1970. Stretch it to 1971 when we look at this picture and the other picture, and this one as well. Could be wrong, but I think these are 1966 through 1971, and then she transitions into high school. So jumping into her activities of 1973, I don't have 71 or 72. Like I said, those were the only pre-high school pictures. I'd like to say, like I said before, 66 through 71. Maybe you stretch it to 71, 72, but that's where those were. But this is kind of the English program, and this is out of the 1973 yearbook. English program varies from humanities to drama. Speech offers competition in West Communication Contest. If you look down here, you'll see Patsy Paw. So kind of zoom in for that. Above are the winners of the West Communication Contest held annually for junior and senior students. Winners are Debbie McHenry, Mass Communications. Jim Little, I guess that is, Public Address. And then Public Address here, radio announcing, Patsy Paw. Should we drive this down? Patsy's right there. Giving a bit of a closer look, specifically centered on Patsy right here. And then we have an interesting one. And remember, this is all in 1973. We have an interesting one. PFA, Pep Club Cheerleaders Boost School Spirit. Cheering the Little Red Squads onto victory are Little Red cheerleaders. From left, but not pictured, is Patsy Paw. And this is Parkersburg High School in West Virginia. And their mascot, I think it was an Indian or something like that, similar to when they called the Washington Redskins. So they sort of had the same kind of deal going on. Okay, so we have another, this is all in 1973. We have another, something else that Patsy is involved in: library, bookstore, health center, field house, office assistants help PHS run smoothly. And so these are just some of the things, again, that Patsy was involved in. You look down here, you'll see Patsy right here. And just zooming in a little bit more to get a better look, you have Patsy. I try to outline her right here. And when you work through field house office assistants, I think this was for football. So I think not only was she involved in the cheer squad, but she was also a field house assistant or field house office assistant. So maybe she worked in the office specifically, or what we called, I think, trainers, athletic training assistants, where some of the young ladies would come out and help, hold Gatorade and water and stuff like that when I was playing football. So what you see down here, Patsy Paw, just for verification purposes, she's down here. Okay, still going with the granular detail. Busy is the key word for council, AFS, FTA, forum. So you have your different clubs here that you can see. And if we zoom in on what specific club, we see Patsy right here. And again, busy is the key word, busy. So from right here, even thus far, just kind of getting here, we can see that Patsy is involved, right? She likes to put herself in a lot of things, whether it's her mom's doing or whoever else. She likes to get herself involved in a lot of things. So she's in cheering squad. She's a field office assistant. And this is all in 1973 for high school. She's probably a sophomore or something like that at this point. She's probably a sophomore. So even at a young age, she's not shy, or she doesn't shy away from getting involved in and doing some sort of activity or work. And we'll see why later as it becomes part, it becomes clearer as it's evidently a part of her values. Okay, zooming out just a little bit and kind of seeing here, obviously we've circled Patsy here, but just to make sure, top, conducting monthly newspaper collections for recycling, planning a mini park for the school, selling passes to local movie theaters, and initiating many courses were among many activities. Student council sponsored by Mr. David Ice, social studies teacher, and Miss Virginia Laughlin, Latin teacher. So we kind of see the members. Patsy Paul in student council. My God, student council, cheer squad, office assistants. This girl is everywhere in this yearbook as a sophomore. And then just to kind of look here, Patsy Paul, her 1973 yearbook picture. Okay, moving into 1974, I think this would be her junior year. I think this would be her junior year. This is one of the places that she is in the yearbook. Thespians recreate characters. And there's a lot of stuff going on the page. So if we zoom in and we look into number 4, the drinks are on the house as these thespians get together for some old-fashioned action. Cowboys, Indians, and bar girls, along with a bartender and piano player, are from left. Kathy McDonough, sorry, Dave McCoy, Carolyn Swab, Doug Boyd, Becky Arnault, Kristen Whitney, Casey Saran, blah, 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 on to Patsy Paul. And this is going to be in the 4th picture. Boom, 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 boom. We zoom in a little bit and there we see Patsy. No, it's a little blurry, but here we are with Patsy Paul. 1974, junior year. Kind of say a little bit more. She's in another play. I think this is her with makeup on and the extravagant false lashes, which shows that, this is part of her personality. She doesn't mind getting dolled up. You see the signature Patsy lipstick right here. This is something that she likes to do. She's the smile. She's fun. I like to have fun. I like to be outgoing. I like to get out. And I just like to have friends. That's going to come up again. And this is part of the bigger picture on that when we see thespians give Shakespearean comedy as play. We zoom in over here and we can see in this thespian troupe 264 presented a Midsummer Night's Dream. We talk about as some of you guys have mentioned, Miss Jean Brodie, and I'm going to talk about that. But this would, and when I say when we follow the trail to try to understand and make sure before we go off into various paths, we need to have a leg in. And this gives us a leg in to say, okay, not only did Patsy have this one-off experience as Miss Jean Brodie, she had a history of this. This is not new to Patsy. So it would help us establish whether or not Patsy was legitimately trying to act on the 911 call. And as some of you have pointed out, when she fell on the ground and she, exclaimed, Lazarus, Jesus, you raised Lazarus from the dead. And not to make fun, this is this lady's dead daughter. She's hurt. And so there could be an element of true grief there. And obviously, I really want my daughter to be raised from the dead. But also, too, sort of an element of acting. It's possible. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying it's possible because we see from 1973 to 1974 right now that Patsy Paul, right here, boom, thespian, right here. Sorry. Thespian right here. Shakespearean comedy. So she has experience doing this stuff, right? Go down here, boom, give evidence and proof that Patsy is here in this play, taking part. And just showing continuity. 1974, junior year, Patsy Paul right here, student council forum listens to opinions. And if we zoom in a little bit, we can see, they talk about some stuff here and here, obviously, but moving into part 3, you have 1, 2, and 3. But when we move into this, it says students and faculty can sit down face to face and discuss their concerns in the student faculty forum discussed during the year were semester finals, lowering of grades for tardiness. Ooh, that's tough. Opening the library for evening study. Okay, class levels and orientation of new students to PHS. Members are from left seated, Sue Collins, Miss Eileen Hyslop, and then Patsy Paul. 1, 2, 3. Nothing wrong with it. Just showing that this continuity is there. And then, of course, 1974, we see you, Patsy Paul. Boom, 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 right here. So that's her junior pick. Get a better look of Patsy right here. And just to confirm, top left, elected by their classmates, student council member Patsy Paul. And so what's interesting here is that this was an election by her classmates, which means that Patsy was good at getting into the community. She is good at, connecting with people, which you can see really well. That's why journalism would work out, because she was really good at not only getting up close and personal and being personable with people, but connecting enough to draw them in and get what she wanted. And so in this case, I want votes to be on student council so that I can affect change in my school. Why is that important? Because it could be the case if you go to a small town like Atlanta, or you go to an even smaller town named Boulder, Colorado, you might immediately get around people who are of great influence. It is not by happenstance that some relationships come about. It is by the positioning of yourself in front of the right people. And so Patsy is positioning herself in front of the right people in order to get votes for student council, which would carry over into her time in Atlanta and into her time in Colorado. And just one more picture for good measure. So you see Patsy's smiling face. And so we'll move on. You have the drill team. Oh, there it is. There it is. You remember this picture. You remember this picture. I know you do, because we looked at it prior to the one we're seeing. So it's possible then, if we look at this in light of everything, that this is a drill team picture. Again, no problem if it's, creative arts or anything like that, but drill team nonetheless could be, and it makes me lean toward drill team, because here we can show continuity, top. And obviously we'll zoom in on Patsy so you can see. So there's no misunderstanding. It's definitely resembling of Patsy. We don't have to guess now, do we? We don't have to guess. Top, which is this, part of the Red Wing routine deals with using colorful suitcases and discs. Red Wings perform at pregame football shows, halftime during basketball games, and in various community events, such as parades. Community events. Okay. So Patsy's getting out there. Members are from left, bottom row, Doris Coleman, Sandy Kimball, Suzanne Bauer, and Patsy Paul. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this girl right here, as I was looking through the pics, this girl right here, she was really tapped in. She was really plugged in. She was in a lot of things, which was interesting. I was like, okay, so again, why do I say that? Why is that point even necessary to bring up? She's not Patsy. That's important to bring up because when we think about the environment, again, that Patsy existed in, this is an environment where the kids apparently are encouraged to be involved. They're encouraged to be engaged. So when I see this young lady right here, nothing wrong with her, just make an example. When I see this young lady right here in a multitude of things, it's like, oh, this is common, and not everybody's going to do it, but this is common. And Patsy fits right into this mold of jumping into a lot of things and being involved in a lot of things. So that might take shape as she continues to grow. This is the kind of person that you're dealing with. A little bit more of a close-up, just the picture alone is, I think, what I was thinking here. Cutting that out. Then you have another picture of Patsy, drill team right in the back. Look at how she's smiling. And I'm sorry it's blurry, but look at how she's smiling. Just happy to be there, ecstatic to be there. And I want to put this in the context of the paper or the page. So if we look back at this, we can see Patsy up here, and on the same page, we can see her down here. So she's kind of involved in both the drill team. So got a good pick up here, got a good pick up here. Moving on. In the next pick, we have speech students capture forensic trophies. We have Patsy here. I think 9. If we move out to the broader one, this is just a kind of an overview. And what you'll probably notice is obviously, right? Speech honorary is what we're dealing with. We are dealing with students who are giving speeches. Look at these trophies. These are nice looking trophies. They look familiar. Kind of walking through JonBenet's room. We see sort of like extravagant trophies. We see the sort of the trophy here, and we see the sort of tiaras there. See a trophy on the ground right there is what it looks like. It's weird to me. And maybe I think this is what someone was pointing out before, is that looks like a it looks like a Nintendo, like a regular Nintendo. And I'm wondering why that would be in JonBenet's room. And so I'm sorry, but just to kind of illustrate the point, might be something that looks like this. And this part, I think, connects to this part right here. So this back connects to that back. And then obviously you have this middle part right here, which I believe connects here. And then the front of the console would be up here somewhere. So I'm wondering if JonBenet liked to play video games, and if this was something that, she would have been trying to connect with Burke over. And I'm going to keep this Patsy centered, but just making a comparison here. But I wonder if, because Burke got a Nintendo 64 for Christmas this year. So I'm wondering if he had this Nintendo Entertainment System prior, and then got this, got a Nintendo 64 and then kind of moved this to the side is what I'm wondering. And so this ended up in JonBenet's room because maybe JonBenet wanted to play video games. Maybe she wasn't as serious as Burke, but nevertheless. So anyways, kind of getting back to this point here. kind of looking at the trophies and the makeup of everything. Again, seeing a clearer picture of the tiara. So kind of like this trophy thing, and then kind of moving more to where I think what's applicable to Patsy is kind of these trophies, right? So kind of similar, maybe. I don't know. Kind of similar, but I think so. But just making a point. But the thing that I'm trying to illustrate with that is that as Patsy's going through high school, it sets the foundation for a possibility of wanting to chase this. Because again, Patsy's involved in a lot of things. So it sets the foundation, the groundwork for her wanting to chase these kind of things. So moving on into the analysis, we look up here, we've already highlighted her third row, Patsy Paw below. Down here we see Patsy Paw in the first row. But I've also taken the liberty of highlighting somebody else that you might know. This person right here. Who is that? According to this, and obviously you see Patsy up close here, and I'll get closer just so you can confirm. Then right here, we don't know who this is yet. We really don't. Until we look over here. We see Patsy, but then we see Pam. Pam Paw, there it is. Existing in high school at the same time. Thank you. Continuing to move through our analysis. Entertainment, work among groups, activities. Top mummers are honorary Thespian members who have accumulated the most number of points in dramatic activity. Patsy Paw, first row, Patsy Paw. So she's on top right here. Look at the shoes, you know what it is. And we zoom out, and then they said she's on the first row, the Thespian troupe 264, which we saw. So she kind of, it's continuity there. So we saw it in 1964, I believe. And now we're kind of seeing it again in 1965. So she was in Mummers are honorary Thespian members, most number of points. So the most number of points means that she's not a rookie. She knows what she's doing. And she's very focused, I guess we could say. She's very intentional, is the word I'm looking for, about not only entering theater, because you know you have people who enter theater, but you also know you have people who enter theater and take it seriously. And Patsy seems to take it seriously. So this is something that she's working on. It's become a craft. And so now we can start to paint a picture of Patsy as some sort of creative. Patsy's a creative. And the thing about creatives are fun. They're outgoing. Creatives are less organized. They're not just completely disorganized, but they're less organized. And it could be the case that Patsy may have had some sort of ADHD. Could be the case. And I don't say that in terms of a bad thing, but I just say that in terms of sometimes people with ADHD are looking at sort of the middle portions of a project rather than the end portion of a project. So they'll get excited about getting the party together and planning the party. But, you know, somebody else has to bring it to a close. It's not that they can't, but it's very hard for them to get to that ending stage. And so that would be the case why you might see a lot of mess, but also too around the house, around Christmas time. But also too, if we step back and we say, okay, just decorating things, putting things on, being an event planner, that's indicative, I think, of a creative. And so Patsy's going into this creative sphere, expressing this part of acting of herself and being intentional to gain the most points. Now, going down here, we highlight Patsy right here. It's a little blurry, super blurry, but we highlight Patsy down here. How do we know? Come down here, first row. Ba, 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 ba. And we have here And the first row I think is kind of messed up. So if it could be this person or Patsy right here, but I believe it could be this person, but I believe just kind of going more, but I believe this is Patsy because of the long hair. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so continuing, another part of the yearbook, page 173, revenue play trip contests are part of PHS events. We see Patsy right here, sorry. Kind of seeing Patsy right here. And I'll read this to you if you can't see it. The serpent contains such scenes as an autopsy, the awakening of Eve, and I think I blocked that out because YouTube doesn't need to see that. The killing, I guess, or the unaliving of John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King. That's what this. So the serpent contains scenes of an autopsy, awakening of Eve, and the unaliving of JFK and Martin Luther King. Bottom right, Patsy Paul placed first in the Voice of Democracy contest at the district level. Voice of Democracy is sponsored each year by the veterans of foreign wars. So she has some familiarity with democracy and things of that nature, and sort of speaking at that level. It's very interesting. So again, here's Patsy Ramsey. And let me just move it over so you get a better look. So, you know, you can kind of get involved in what I'm reading as well. So I was kind of reading from, and I was reading little costumes, little costuming, and much acrobatics are used in the play. And so top left, you have the Serpent, written by Jean-Claude, presented by the Thespians, involves the use of chants, processions, and dances. And so I wanted to kind of show this, and I think this is kind of the pictures of it. And I don't know if Patsy was involved in it. I don't think she was, but I'm just saying that to say that if Patsy's in theater and she's a thespian in 1975, I think she would have some understanding of this play, specifically scenes of the autopsy and sort of these parts of JFK and MLK. But of course, she was doing her own thing over here. So this is Patsy. She won her trophy. But anyways, we'll move forward. And now we see Patsy, PHS students achieve honors, present assembly. Okay. And so the top left, you have Marianne Cox, and she's named PHS's Betty Crocker Family Leader of Tomorrow. So you see she's cooking. But then we have down here, Senior West winners were from left, Carla, and then Patsy. Boom, circled here. Another trophy. This is a different trophy. So Patsy is now, as we can see, become accumulated to racking up trophies. And this is, we see from her first year or her second or third year as a sophomore, we can see that Patsy is sort of ascending into, she's becoming better. She's getting better as a person. Not only am I getting in competitions, not only am I getting into getting on student council and sort of performing as a thespian, but I'm also winning trophies for it. I'm also performing at the highest level. Something like this. So keep that in mind. Moving forward, we have a little bit more of Patsy. And this is all in 1975. This is her senior year. This is sort of her exit from high school. So we see Patsy here, pictured with classmates. So we can kind of see this page, top left, you have Elliot Wigington, blah, 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 blah. Top right, which is up here, top right, top left, top right. Elk's Most Valuable Student Scholarship Leadership Award nominees, seated from left, Suzanne Bauer. Okay. Now we remember the name, I believe, Suzanne Bauer from earlier. And now we see Suzanne in something else. Patsy Paul. Here we go again. Patsy's involved in something else. So she's a nominee. Elk's Most Valuable Student Scholarship Leadership Award nominee. And this would be sort of like the type of thing that Patsy would have had to go through possibly, and they may have revised just depending on funding as it grows. But, this is an academic scholarship. So those who receive the scholarship are invited to Chicago to participate in the leadership weekend, participate in engaging programming, get to know the organization that makes the scholarship possible. So these are the type of things that Patsy is going out for. Just a little side note. So nothing to write home about, but basically the fact that Patsy is not only trying to get involved in a bunch of things, but she's trying to find a way to pay for college. So she's highly intelligent in that I don't want to spend my own money for this. I need to get somebody else to pay for this if possible, because I think back at that time period, FAFSA wasn't that big, or it was non-existent. And actually, as I look it up, I don't think FAFSA was present until like 92. So Patsy would have definitely been paying out of pocket. And so this is obviously one way for Patsy to make sure that her school future is solidified, going for an award like this. And I think, as the program stated, boys and girls were sort of separated, or I don't know the language that they put. It was like males and females or something like that, were sort of judged separately, or were able to apply and kind of receive consideration separately. So just something to think about to kind of help her pay. So the point is that she knows how to pull in donations. She knows how to write something wherever she's getting help from. She knows how to write something to pull in help from people. And just to kind of close out 1975, we see the senior index, kind of see where Patsy is mentioned here. And so that we know everything that Patsy was involved in 1975, Patsy Paul, Elks Leadership Contest, Field House, whether we saw it or not, Field House Office Assistant, Junior Orchesis. And I think this is what's the word I'm looking for? This is the dance team, the drill team is what I'm trying to get out. The drill team. This is the drill team. On the junior squad. It's really weird. Junior West winner, Little Red cheerleaders, mask and gavel mummers. This is the Thespian thing. Pep Club. Okay, so she's on the Pep Club. Red Wing drill team. Revenue Senior West winner. Revu. Senior West winner. Sports Carnival. Student Faculty Forum. Teenager of the Month. Teenager of the Month. Whoa. Nominee. She was going out for that too. Thespian, Voice of Democracy school winner, entire school. WEO, National Forensics League, State Drama Festival winner. State Drama Festival winner. State, that's in West Virginia. So if we want to count that out and try to estimate a little bit just for kicks, I think in 75, according to countryeconomy.com, West Virginia population in 75 was about 1.84 million. Right? Sorry. About 1.84 million. And you kind of see it increasing as you go from 68 to... So a pretty sizable town. And I think on average, I was looking up, on average, high school students are about 5 to 7% of the population on average. So doing the numbers, if we multiply 1.84 million, we multiply this number. Let's see, just to make sure. Yeah. So if we multiply this number, we're probably looking at somewhere between 92,000 and 128,000 individuals that Patsy Ramsey was competing against. So out of in high school. So in high school, we can close this down. In high school, the State Drama Festival, and then probably even smaller for drama people, Patsy was up against a significant amount of people in drama for the state festival winner. So that's pretty significant that Patsy has a knack for going into she apparently loves competitions. She loves it. Okay. And I think it speaks to the very competitive nature of Patsy Ramsey, which is why she was in contests. And I remembered this look.
In her pupils in this, like you don't get the opportunity to see very often.
The Colorado Bureau of Investigation took your handwriting samples to the Secret Service. Do you know the result?
That look is a competitive look as well. Now it's obviously data collection. We get that, as they were saying, trying to really slow down and listen hard. As we pointed out before, she was shaking and nodding, and then she slowed down that little under eye. It was quick too.
The Secret.
Her eyes are wide open, but then very quickly, boom, right into a squint.
To the Secret Service.
Boom. Both of them too. They were in lockstep. That was fast.
The Secret Service. Do you know the results?
That's competition. We'll see what you're talking about. We'll see who can best who.
Her pupils go to pinpoint and then back out a little.
We had experts.
And I love.
We had experts.
Her pupils go to pinpoint and then back.
So she holds the stare. She doesn't blink. That's a competitive stare that brings out, I'm listening to you, but I'm about to. Debates, all of these things Patsy is involved in speeches. She's highly skilled, and you underestimate Patsy. Highly skilled.
Back out a little.
And then she blinks and finally breaks the stare.
We had experts do the same kind of testing, and it's my understanding that the people that we use trained the people from the CBI.
So that goes to the competitive nature and the hunger. There's a drive, there's a hunger, there's a tenacity in Patsy Ramsey that she presents herself as this doll, but she's very, very bulldogish, if that makes sense. Nicely, but it's there. And when we look at her profile on classmate.com and we see what people remember, and you can find the yearbooks and everything on there if you want to do your own analysis. Just it's a free. You don't have to, you don't have to sign up for anything, but if you sign up, you can kind of do some digging and find Patsy Ramsey in Parkersburg High School. And you'll see some yearbooks and stuff like that. But she's admired. One of the things she's admired, she's ambitious. They mark her as admired, ambitious, attractive. They mark her as charming, nice smile, respected, talented. All things we know. So these are things that her classmates are marking about her. People who are just coming in and saying, oh, I know Patsy is this. So this is great. This is good to know that. But obviously the nice smile, but respected and talented, charming. We see a little bit of that charm as Patsy is conducting herself among sort of some of the social elites. And this charming business here is important for getting the scholarships. You want it when you go for scholarships and things of that nature, or you go out for volunteer clubs, or when you go out to reach out to donors. One of the biggest things is having personality. It's not just about writing. It's not just about writing a good statement of interest or a statement of purpose or what have you. And it's not just about having a pity party on yourself when you're writing these things. I came from the worst of the worst and the lows of the lows, so this is why you should give me money. They also want to know that they're giving money to people who understand what they went through and the struggles that they went through, but they want to give money to people who are talking about overcoming those struggles. So they know that they're investing in someone who is committed to that. So obviously attractive, ambitious, and admired. So people looked up to Patsy in some way, shape, or form. And then we go into college. And I believe that this is between her years between 75 and 79 when she was in college. Same thing for this. I believe this was between 79 and 75. And right here, she's donned with her Miss West Virginia. And I believe that this was in 1977 when she actually won Miss West Virginia. So we can catch this. So at this point, if she went into college about 75, she was a sophomore, a freshman in 75 and into 76. She would be a sophomore from 76 into 77 and then 77 to 78. So somewhere around here, she would be a sophomore, junior, something like that. She would be a sophomore into junior or something like that. So this is sophomore, junior year. So what we see here is the consistency of Patsy getting better. Now she's going on to bigger and better things, becoming Miss this or Miss that, entering in pageants. We'll talk a little bit later. We're going to get into that, about where this drive comes from for pageantry and competition, because this is instilled in her. So this is something that she does as a sophomore, junior in college. So not only is she studying and getting her academic foundation, but she's still staying in this creative space, being this very multifaceted person. She is in front of the media. She is made for the news. She is made to be a celebrity. She is made to be an influencer. That's Patsy Ramsey. Now I want to jump back just a second to as we're going through college. I want to jump back just a second. July 16th, 06. I think this is in Candy Rose's files. Again, this is all available online on Candy Rose's website. And so I'm just kind of pulling this transcript. And here's a reference to the prime from Patsy herself during interviews with Steve Thomas and Tom Trujillo, April 30 of 97. Detective Trujillo says, okay, did any scholarships come of that? Not really sure in the conversation where that jumps out, but Patsy Ramsey says, yes, there was some scholarships for winning Miss Virginia, Miss West Virginia. So she got a scholarship for actually winning that in 77. And that was about, and then she, won Miss America pageant as a non-finalist talent award. So she got something from there, and there was $2,000 for that. And Detective Trujillo says, okay, which talent, did you have? What was that? She says the kiss of death. And so I think Steve Thomas comes up and asks sort of Miss Jean Brodie. So he's done his homework. Come on, man. Look. Come on. How did he snap back with that fast? How did he have that ready? Miss Jean Brodie. So he did his homework. He knew a little bit about what he was doing. So when we act like these cops just blundered their job, I beg to differ. Again, I am not saying that they did a perfect job, but I'm saying that they didn't just screw up and blunder, just make mistakes. It's like it's not like they didn't collect anything or do any homework. Steve Thomas came back and said, Miss Jean Brodie, oh, you're right. Who told him that? So you did, Miss Jean Brodie. Okay. Detective Trujillo says, was that earlier? And Patsy says, the pride of Miss, Jean Brodie. She's asking a question. Well, actually, no, it wasn't. Actually, what happened, I did the Miss Jean Brodie. I competed in high school with that, and I placed nationally. Oh, thanks for giving us clarification, Patsy, on what you're doing. So not only did she go to the state level, we know that she went to the state level, in something, but she also went on a national level with Miss Jean Brodie. So this is giving us a better picture of Patsy as sitting in her room practicing, or sitting in the library, or sitting in the theater auditorium, or what have you, practicing her lines. So we can see that Patsy is very busy all the time with school, with councils, with dance, with cheerleading, with clubs, going out in public facing roles with the community, but also going on a national level for her theater. That means that this young lady is no slouch when it comes to acting. She has the ability to act and be believable. What does that mean? When we move forward and we're analyzing and assessing Patsy, we have to be careful that this is somebody who can really act. This is somebody that can tap into her bag at any point in time. So I placed nationally with it. And then I had done that for Miss West Virginia and won with that. And so that's what got her the W in Miss West Virginia. So she apparently was really good at it. And then when you go to Miss America, you have to do through this business in the event you make the top 10 and you're on television. There are all these rights and royalties or whatever they call it. And they have to give you clearance. So I don't think she was able to get clearance on this, is what she was saying. I can't remember exactly the details, but I ended up writing a dialogue that I used, and I don't remember, but I had a lot of the same characterizations and that kind of thing. I was definitely thrilled when I won the talent, because it was a real chore getting there. So she had to sort of revise her Miss Jean Brodie play for television because she couldn't get clearance because of probably royalties and copyright and all such as that, and so on and so forth. All those things, all the fun legal things that you have to go through. So on a national level, she couldn't, and she probably would have won. If she was that good, she probably would have won with that. But she had to sort of switch it up a little bit and try to make it not as Miss Jean Brodie-ish, but a little bit. And at this point, I should say, this gives me legs into the prime or the pride of Miss Jean Brodie, whatever it is. I think we have a note down here that pride should have been prime. Patsy wouldn't have gotten that wrong. So I don't know. But at any rate. So basically, we know that Patsy is good at this. And this is something that carried from high school into her college years when we're talking about the formidable years of Patsy. And so we know Patsy graduated in 78, 79, somewhere along there, according to the articles and other sources, about 78, 79. She graduated, I think, magna cum laude. And that is sort of the second. Now, listen to me now. That is the second highest distinction. Now, I think the top is summa cum laude. First one is cum laude. That's sort of, you're graduating with some sort of distinction, but magna means that you're in the top 10 to 15% of your class at magna, and then you have summa, which is more superior. But Patsy settled in that so she's very ambitious. This should give you a level of understanding about the ambition that rests and exists in Patsy. Patsy has been charting. This is the person that was JonBenet Ramsey and Burke Ramsey's mother. That was John Ramsey's wife. Very ambitious, climbing. There was an ascension happening here. She was getting better at life. This is 1980, obviously, when she got married to John. We know they met probably around like 79, something like that, 78, 79, latter part. And this is, I would say, probably between 1980 and 1987, because it doesn't include Burke, number one. Number two, it seems to include both of his daughters. I'm not sure which one is Beth, but we know that Beth passed. So it seems to include Beth. And so this is before Beth passed. So she got a picture before. So I would say 1980, 1987, because it's before Burke. I would say that this picture is probably 1990, between 90 and 91, obviously because you're holding JonBenet, but JonBenet probably isn't walking just yet. So I would say this is around 91, something like that. And she looks a little big, so she could be walking. And maybe I would drag this into 92. So somewhere between 90 and 92 is where I would place this. And I would place this between 93 and 94. Look at Burke's face, being silly, you know, really trying to. Now, Patsy and John are here put together. The beard is gone, clean shaven. But I was wondering if this was a wig. As I was looking at the picture, I was going over the picture. I was like, I wonder if this is a wig. But we see Burke is being silly. JonBenet is kind of looking down, and she looks just a little over, going into like 3 or 4 maybe. So this is why I put this between 1993 and 1994. And I put this here between 93 and 95. And I say that because JonBenet, again, she has a little bit more hair, but she still looks young. But Patsy's hair is still kind of short. And this is what made me ask about the other picture. This is what made me ask whether or not she was wearing a wig, because it looks like she's just now starting to kind of get her own hair back. And so what we see here, boop, boop, all of these are matching sweaters. John is the only one without the matching sweater. But what we see here is matching sweaters. Hold on to that. Hang on to that. And so she's dressing her kids in matching sweaters. Burke's over by dad. JonBenet is over by mom, because, you know, there's a connection here. And I mean, it could just be the, you know, how they see pictures. So I wouldn't read too much into that. Okay, so now we see Patsy in 01. He's the 01 deposition. And I think this is also a picture from 01 when she was at JonBenet's gravesite, and she had picked up a like a memorial kind of rock that somebody had left, and she was reading it. You know, somebody had left that for JonBenet. They came by and left that for JonBenet. So I think this is again in 01 when she was kind of observing that. We talked a little bit about the sort of the youthful spirit of Patsy, and that's important to consider. The youthful spirit of Patsy, which is why John loved her so much, because of her youthful spirit. He probably wouldn't even considered her, except that she was so bright. She was such a bright light in any room that she walked into. And so here you can see John is very quiet. You know, people tell you John is very quiet. John probably doesn't smile a lot, right? He doesn't engage with people a lot. But here, this is a time in life where John can be himself the most. This is where he's himself the most, right? Because I have the most important person to me. If everything fails, if everything goes down, John would save Patsy. And that's important to understand that connection there. I'll just say this. Patsy was the ace. When John, and I would say that, without disrespecting anybody else, I would say that, you know, when John found Patsy, John found the one he would do anything for, whether he was frustrated on the back end or what have you. Patsy was the one that he would go crazy over and do stupid things over and couldn't contain, because she's think about John. John is this, you know, introverted, intelligent guy who's probably considered like this nerd or whatever, right? And I'm just talking. I'm not calling him names. I'm just saying he's like, by his peers, he's probably considered, he's just a smart guy. You know, he's one of the nerds in the school. You know, he's very smart. And so nice looking gentleman too. And he could probably get, you know, a girl or two to look his way. But to have a beauty queen on his arm, that's the ultimate. That's crazy. That's different. So this is a fun time that John is having. He's enjoying life even after tragedy. They're smiling. These are true smiles. And in this moment, John will give Patsy anything. And you remember that public facing piece that we talked about, where Patsy is really good with the public. Look at this. Patsy is genuinely smiling here. That is the Patsy you would have run into. Look at how she's holding her glasses. She's holding her. Now, the facial expression of this young lady is, I don't know what she's saying, but it's a little intense. This gentleman is kind of staring at her, eyeing her. We got somebody in the back, kind of writing notes. This gentleman's looking on. He's looking squarely at Patsy. But he's got his camera kind of pointing, whichever direction. It's apparently not pointing to anyone, but he's focused on what Patsy is saying. But all of the attention is on this interaction. So whatever this young lady is saying or said is pulling the attention, and then how Patsy is responding is pulling the attention. But look at Patsy's hand right here, that public facing piece where I'm really good with the, look at how her hand is lodged in the hand of this young woman as if they're old girlfriends. Patsy immediately made a connection. This is what you have to appreciate about Patsy. She made an immediate connection, and she's very relaxed in this hand. This hand gesture right here is very relaxed. My glasses are turned in, my sunshades are turned inside. The hair is kind of, it's blowing in the wind, but this smile says, hey, girlfriend, how are you? Yeah, absolutely. I'll answer any questions you have. Happy to talk to you. Happy to see you. That will pull you in right there. This interaction will catch you off guard. And this right here will turn you into a Ramsey advocate. It ain't gonna be John. I respect John. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not using this to say that John is a bad guy. I'm not using this to say that John doesn't have any charisma. But if John has charisma times 1, Patsy has charisma times 1,000,000,000. Because John is doing his thing. I get he's a nice looking young man, strapping young fellow, but look at Patsy. Look at the get up. Look at the clothes. Like, look at how it's put together. This is a straight shoot. This is a straight suit. Straight shooter is what I was going to say. I mean, it's simple. I got my tie on. I got my books. It is what it is. But Patsy, I love this. Look at the accessories. Look at the accessories. This is not a game, right? The nails are done. And so she's engaging with this woman on a public-facing level. Boom. Patsy's got her. Now this one is even better. Because, and I'll jump back in a second, look at the creases in John's eyes right here. John is genuinely smiling. And again, we got security detail right here. That's apparently what he's doing. Got Fox News in the background. There's a lot of people out here. But guess what? Patsy's in her element because she's been in this role before. Journalism, not only journalism. It's not just journalism. This is a full scope of Patsy being able to go out and win scholarships. This is Miss West Virginia and Miss America on display in addition to the journalism and knowing how to work with the public. Look at how this guy is smiling. Look at her hand placement. She's got her hand on the shoulder and on the arm. And so whatever he's doing, either in her head is down. So he's looking, this guy's got a little smirk on his face. Her hair, again, blowing in the wind. But Patsy has stopped to take time. Look, again, the ring, the accessories, look at them. Very well done. But she's taking time to, if they're about to do an interview, she's stopping. She's, oh, what do you need me to kind of, this is who Patsy was prior to JonBenet and after JonBenet. So we see a consistency in her ability to public face, and when you walk up to Patsy, this is who you're meeting. Somebody that she's going to interact with you. Touch is one of the most important things in establishing rapport with somebody. And Patsy is doing this mentally astute, mentally calculated and touching, boom, boom, steadying him. This guy is smiling. He's having fun. Smiling, having fun. Person over here looking over, but this gentleman right here, now the little look on his face that was there, now he's kind of smiling a little bit. This is who Patsy Ramsey was. And that is why I say Patsy was the ace. Right. And I got a couple more things to do before I close this out. I apologize for the length of this. And maybe if I'm talking too much, I apologize. But I want to get this out so we have a good understanding of who we are dealing with as we move forward. And I want to revise my earlier assessment of this picture. I think this is more so 1980 something, because this is Pam, I believe. Pam is winning something. But this outfit is similar to this. So I think this was in 80. I mean, it could be like 79 or something like that. Maybe they're still, dating or something like that. But 79, 80. I'll say 79 or 80. So it could have still kind of been college, out of college and into meeting John, because when she met John, it wasn't that much later. It really wasn't. I have to get the dates on that. And I'm pulling to kind of prove my point about her meeting John. This is coming from the Bonita papers, and I think some of this is pulled from the Vanity Fair article. Patsy graduated magna cum laude with a degree in journalism from West Virginia. We know that in the summer of 79, West Virginia. And in the summer of 79, she moved to Atlanta. Okay. To take a job with McCann Erickson Advertising Agency. Still following Patsy's moves, the rest of her family left Charleston West. Don Paul's retirement from Union Carbide. He also moved to Atlanta with his daughter. Patsy was the oldest, by the way. It was in Atlanta that John and Patsy met in 79. So she moves the summer of 79, and within like 6 months to close out 79. Summer of 79, I say June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 6 to 7 months. She moves, say she graduated May something. She, maybe she has a job. Knowing Patsy, she probably had a job lined up. So she moved probably, say June. Let's say June. At the earliest. She moves in June. She gets there and she say, I'll be there to work for whatever time in June. So within 6-7 months of moving to Atlanta, she is meeting John. Now, only a year later, after his divorce, and I think that means finalized, from Lucinda. He had divorced Lucinda in 78. So while both were living at the same apartment complex, they were married the following year on November 15th of 1980. So from summer to summer, if we say from June to June, that's a year. And you got to know, so if we say from June, so if we take June the 1st, and we go from June 1st to June 1st, let's just we'll assume that just for timeline purposes, we go from June 1st to June 1st, that's a year, that's 12 months, and we tack on till November, July, August, September, October, November. So that's like 17 months. It's like 17 months that from meeting. I think the widest timeline from meeting until marriage is like 17 months. Patsy is just now getting out of college. John is all she knows. John is well established. He's been through marriage once. He has 3 kids. I don't think Beth got in a car wreck until like 91, 92, something odd like that. Somewhere between 90 and 92. I'm rough on that. So that was still happening. So he still has his 3 kids. He's divorced in 78. And, and a year later, he's got somebody else on the hook. So they didn't know each other too long before, meeting and then marriage discussions to actually getting married. And so we kind of use that to show the rise of Patsy Ramsey. And we're not done yet. Again, forgive me, this is out of place, but I wanted to show a little bit closer view of Parkersburg High School, and this is 1970. So yeah, forgive me for showing that out of place, but this is something else that I wanted to show. But moving on and kind of jumping into the analysis that would ground me further into the Miss Jean Brodie. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this video because somebody wanted me to talk about Miss Jean Brodie, and I didn't have any legs on that. But I think after kind of doing this analysis on Patsy and kind of looking into Patsy a little bit more and understanding who Patsy was and how invested in theater that she was. And I know I'm jumping back to high school, just stepping back a little bit into high school and into the college years and coming out of college a little bit into the sort of that high school college period where she went to, and specifically between, well, I'd say high school, somewhere between 73, 74 into 77, 78 when she was doing the pageants and using Miss Jean Brodie. I think this is analysis that's on, you guys know Cotton Star Manifesto. He's a smaller channel on here. I think he has somewhere around 2 to 3 grand as I make this video, 2 to 3 grand, 2 to 3,000 subs at this point. And like, I'm not gonna lie to you, man, I like his analysis, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, I like his analysis. So I think this is something that he's done on Reddit, and so this gentleman is just kind of presenting it. But important to establish, Patsy, main character Miss Jean Brodie, was an independent, vivacious character whose favorite expression was creme de la creme, which is a French term meaning the best of the best. And so what he pointed out was Jacques JonBenet attaché, kind of saying that Patsy had this flair for French. And I thought that was kind of, and that gives me legs into Jean Brodie and sort of this acting, this sort of thespian run that Patsy had. Further into the analysis, kind of talking about Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, which talent competition. I had to cut it to 2 minutes and 50 seconds. That's what we read before when she was talking to Detective Trujillo and Detective Steve Thomas, and she kind of had to frame differently. But this piece from the Charleston Daily Mail on July 12 of 77. When she said, "My talent is a dramatic interpretation that I wrote based on a portion of the Prime of Miss Jean Brodie." And this is her having to, I think this is her having to go for, I don't know. I play 2 characters, Miss McKay, the stern headmistress, and Jean Brodie, the eccentric, vivacious school teacher when I won 2nd place in the National Forensic Tournament in Philadelphia. Interpretation was 10 minutes long for the talent competition, had to be cut down to 2 minutes, 50 seconds. It's difficult to establish character there. And so I think this is the forensic tournament. I won 2nd place in that forensic tournament in Philly. And she wrote this in 77, so that had to be backwards. And just real quickly referring back, I say it had to do something, I think, possibly with this, when speech students capture forensic trophies. And so I think this had to do something with that. And we see Patsy up here, and then we see Patsy down here with Pam up here, and speech honorary was for this one, I believe. And then below, the members of the PHS forensic team, Patsy Paul here. So I think that's what that's referring to. Maybe in Philly is where it was. She's giving us insight to the fact that she maybe won 2nd place in that. And this was in 1975. So 2 years prior to this, maybe, if this is correct, that would be 2 years prior, where she was able to perform that for 10 minutes in the National Forensic Tournament. And we continue to note Patsy's flair for her flair for French. The following quotes are from the book or the play, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. Sandy screamed. Monica, whose face was becoming very red, swung the attaché case which held her books so that it hit the girls who stood in its path and made them stand back from her. So attaché case, there it is. But also a note here, that's kind of important maybe. The specialty of the feast was pineapple cubes with cream, and the specialty of the day was that they were left to themselves. Both girls saved the cream to the last, then ate it in spoonfuls. So pineapple cubes with cream was also something that they were talking about, I think, from the play, if this is, or the movie, if this is what they were talking about. And kind of something else that was pointed out from the book, I believe, as it relates to Patsy. "Oh dear," said Rose out loud one day when they were settled to essay writings. "I can't remember how you spell possession. Are there two S's or question mark?" And so, as they show, when you look back to possession, this is something that possibly, and I don't know how Patsy would have drawn on that from so long ago, how she would have thought about that. To even use the word possession. We have, and maybe that's just the thespian inner coming out and going back to Miss Jean Brodie and the flair for the dramatic, where she remembered about this and where there should have been a second S right here. Should have been a second S right here, but she misspelled it. And so it could be the case that she was pulling inspiration from this part. And again, I think this is from the book as the video presents it. So Patsy, to bring this to a close, Patsy had cancer in 93, according to this article. Patsy had it in 93 and suffered a reoccurrence 3 years ago, and this was written in 2006. So it came back 3 years ago in 0203. Returned in February of 2002, detected through a liver biopsy as part of her annual checkup. Said in a speech to cancer survivors in March 04, it had returned for a third time. So it's kind of pulls us back down. And she, in 02, she had done an interview with 48 Minutes, I think.
Did your daughter have a bedwetting incident that night? Did you get up? Did you get angry? And did you hurt her?
No, I did not.
What is your reaction? When you know many people think that's what you...
I'm just kind of showing this to, because it's kind of like a picture. This was in 02 on 48. I'm sorry, not 48 minutes, but 48 hours. Got that wrong. Sorry. This is in 48 hours. But this interview, I know they have the 2024 updated one, but this one aired, I think, October 4th of 02. And the cancer came back in February. So as she sits here, she has cancer, or the cancer has come back.
You did.
They are wrong. I don't know what else to say. How else do you say no except no? No.
So you're looking in the face of a woman who now has cancer, and this is 02.
No means no.
And then in 06, we'll discuss this. I have this interview. I think this interview was in 06. And this is the article where it's pulled from Well, no, not pulled from, but courtesy of New Hope Christian Fellowship. Pastor Wayne Cordiero spoke last April with Patsy and John Ramsey on set of Connecting Point television show. And kind of, scrolling down here, I've prayed for this person to come to salvation and come forward. Believe God is God of justice. Patsy Ramsey said during the taping of Connecting Point television show with Reverend Wayne Cordiero a few days after her husband John spoke at a New Hope Christian Fellowship Easter Sunday service on April 16th. Now, I don't know if they're saying that John spoke on April 16th and then a few days later, which would be like the 19th. So somewhere between April 16th and 19th. But anyways, this is in April when Patsy, this is in April, the closest you can get in April when Patsy was kind of on this, kind of her last days is what it was. So April 16th, 19th is when this picture is taking place. And so April 19th almost, so April, May, June, almost, I'd say 2 months later, a little over 2 months later, on the 24th, she succumbed. And I don't know when John decided to take her off, but it's crazy because this is in 2006, June of 2006. And so right here, she seems like she still has life left. And maybe that's because of the medicine. We don't know when the medicine was pulled off, but they're in Hawaii, and maybe it was her last dream to go to Hawaii. If you go back to the 48 Hours documentary that we were just showing, it was kind of talking about the transition from the bigger home in Atlanta to a smaller townhome because all of the resources were depleted and things of that nature. And so, this is, this woman is full of life here. And so now that all the resources are depleted, this is something that I can still give you, this sort of last hurrah. What do you want to do? And maybe this happened after a conversation. And this has to be a scary feeling, man. Knowing in about 2 months that my wife is or knowing it soon. I've already maybe discussed to take my wife off of the meds and stuff like that are helping her, because there's no hope, no use. And so I know my wife is going to pass soon. And so, what, we start planning, and you got this feeling in your gut, man, in your stomach. It's just this gut punch that you can never accept. And, your wife she's going to go down soon. And Hawaii is going to be sort of this last hurrah. We're just, we're just going to live life. We're going to, live it to the fullest. And we're just going to expend our last resources on taking you to Hawaii and giving you that. And so she's in good spirits. And this is '06. And this is sort of not the beginning to end of Patsy, but sort of like from 1960, 1967, something like that, to 2006 of Patsy. So very interesting. Obviously going to do a little bit more on Patsy Ramsey in the coming days. So stay tuned. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you engaging in the comments. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you who are kind of keeping I want to call it a scholarly debate, who are presenting evidence and presenting facts. We want to keep it as cordial as possible. And when I say cordial, I mean no name calling. And so no, I prefer not to have any, and I can't control you, you're adults, but I prefer not to have sort of disrespectful opinions put forth, or very degrading perspectives is what I prefer. I'd like that we talk to each other with respect if we can. You might disagree with somebody's opinion, but if we can do it cordially, that's what I would prefer. And I'm not speaking specifically to anybody, but, just want to make sure that we all have respect. We all have different, perspectives on this case. We all believe the evidence strongly, whatever way we believe it. But I think respect is the highest thing. And I want to say thank you to a lot of you who are sort of defending the research that we're doing here, and doing a lot to promote the research that we're doing here. So I know I mentioned Steph before, but I'd also like to mention, and this is just, this is not everybody, but Pamela Smith. You guys will probably see her around 6221. Also Libby Stark 2034. Also Miss Backstager, comments heavy. I love it. And guys, if you want to comment several times, please, absolutely comment several times. Background stream, see a lot, of course. I see Dennis Stroll 1475 pop up every now and again in my comments, and then this is just who I try to go through and see popping up. And aside from Pam, another person who comes to my defense a lot is Julie GM8 FZ comes to my defense a lot. Guys, I appreciate it. I really do. It's very heartwarming. And that's not everybody, but it's extremely heartwarming. Recently, somebody I saw came to my defense as well, and I know there's a lot. Was Barb from Canada. Just spoke with her in the comments. Very happy to be speaking with every one of you as I engage. And so I know this is long and drawn out, but I want to reiterate, and I have to from time to time reiterate, thank you, for engaging in this community and being a part of this community. I know some of this information is not new, but this is sort of my take on this case. And so I appreciate it. And I'll close it there. And until next time, take it easy.